Welcome to Road to Recovery.
Hello and welcome to Road to Recovery, advocacy and insights for trucking accidents with Sagi Shaked. I'm your host, Kevin Rosenquist, and thank you for being here. Sagi is founder of Shaked Law Personal Injury Lawyers and is ranked as one of the top 100 trial lawyers in the United States by the American Trial Lawyer Association. With a wealth of experience in personal injury, wrongful death, and complex litigation cases, he passionately advocates for victims and has recovered multi-million-dollar settlements in damages. Sagi, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Kevin.
All right. Well, today we're going to talk about the length of time it takes to settle a trucking accident case. We want to help the listeners out there understand the key factors that influence the timeline. So why don't we start by, why do truck accident cases take longer than typical car accident cases?
Truck companies and insurance companies fight these cases harder than they do when they have auto accident cases. Why? Generally, the injuries are a lot more severe when you have an 80,000-pound truck as opposed to a car. So in the car cases, you have the standard four, the State Farm, Geico, Allstate, and Progressive. They fight them, and some of them can be tough to deal with. But in trucking cases, they fight harder. And that's why you need a very skilled lawyer, someone who knows what they're doing in that area. So it just seems like they make it their mission to make the plaintiff's attorney and the victim of the negligence, they make it their mission to make it their life a lot harder than it should be in these cases. But then again, if they made it easy, nobody would need a lawyer and nobody would, everything would be easy and you just go and settle the case. But it doesn't work that way.
It definitely does not work that way, yes. You mentioned the severity of injuries being more so in a trucking accident case. How does the severity of the injuries and the ongoing medical treatment affect the settlement timeline?
Yeah, so the severity makes a big difference. And I'll say that because sometimes we have clients who have big cases, but they don't have the monster huge cases. So if someone has a very significant injury case, that is going to take a lot longer than the average run-of-the-mill type of smaller case. And why do I say that? The bigger injury cases require a lot more attention and time. And then the insurance companies need a lot more time to assess that risk, right? They know how to assess a risk that is, smaller injury. They've dealt with those over and over again. But then when you talk about a big spinal injury, whether it's a wrongful death or a catastrophic injury case, the insurance companies, they just put off paying as much as they can. Their money makes money in the stock market. Also, the plaintiff lawyer needs to work up those cases. And a lot of times it takes a little while for the person that's injured to find or to get stabilized before they can really get a life care plan put in place to determine what the future care and treatment needs are for that person. So a lot of times it's both on the insurance company, but also on the client until the client gets to like a status of what they call maximum medical improvement. And some clients never get to that status. But the severity makes a difference, and usually the bigger cases take a little bit longer than the smaller cases.
So tell me about the process. How long does it take to gather the critical evidence, like the driver's logs, the black box data, and the accident reconstruction? How long does this process take?
So usually as soon as we get the call, and we'd like to get the call right away when the crash occurred so we can send our team out there right away. But to gather the information such as the driver's logs, that would require us to send the preservation letter to the insurance company, and they have to preserve those records for 6 months. So like the logbooks, for example. So if you don't send it to them within that 6 months, they can destroy those records and say we don't have them. And so that becomes a problem for the case. So immediately, as soon as we get the case, we'll send out that preservation letter to get those logbooks, whether they're digital or handwritten, but most of them are digital now. And then to do the data download, like the black box that you had asked about, that you need to coordinate with the insurance company and the trucking company. Because usually in a trucking wreck, the truck is still drivable or sometimes not drivable. But then you still need to get the data download, and they usually have it on one of their tow yards or their, a storage yard. And we have to go there, and you got to get permission. Your expert has to go there and do the download. Their expert's going to want to be there. So that could take some time. And generally, you'd like to get that scheduled right away to make sure, and I say right away, usually within 30 days, you'd like to get it, if hopefully sooner. Sometimes the police is involved and it's in their impound lot, which takes a lot longer because it's a criminal investigation. investigation, if the driver was drunk or there was some criminal element to the case. So the data box or the black box data sometimes can take a little while, 30 days, sometimes even longer, depending on, again, if the police have it in their impound. And then accident reconstruction experts, they come to the scene depending on when the plaintiff's attorney gets hired, and they try to reconstruct the scene. So the faster they can get hired, the better it is for the case. The longer you wait to hire them, the more evidence disappears. Like, for example, gouge marks in the roadway, they could disappear. If there was a video of an incident that occurred, sometimes they get written over because the storage on the hard drive doesn't hold that much, although people are going to cloud-based storage. So it really depends. But I'd say the sooner you can get an attorney involved that knows what they're doing and can get their team out there, the better it is for your case. And that this way the evidence can be preserved, like the logbooks, the black box data recorder, and also getting your accident reconstruction expert to the scene.
Inclement weather's got to make it tough, right? Like if you have like really bad storms, or I guess where you are, it doesn't really snow, but if you had snow or something, that would probably make it a lot harder to collect some evidence.
Yeah, the weather can make it more difficult, but there, like we said, the black box data recorder still records, even though in the weather. The streets, if the weather's not the best, and maybe the cameras that picked up the crash don't necessarily get the best camera views because of the rain or whatever type of weather that you're in. So weather can make a difference, and that's why it's even more important to get someone out there, because if the weather was bad that day, maybe that weather influenced the way the crash occurred, and we kind of need to know that to preserve and protect our client's case.
When does settlement negotiation typically begin, and how long does that take?
So when we talk about settlement negotiations, every case is different. Sometimes you have a good insurance company on the other side and they want to resolve the case right away. But I find, in doing this over 20 plus years, 24 years, that usually the insurance companies don't offer good money to these types of cases in what they call pre-suit, before litigation. So we don't bother with it in pre-litigation, because on the big cases, you're just never going to get fair value. They smell the sense of desperation. So what we usually do is, if we have these big cases come in, we'll file the lawsuit. We're not going to sit there and wait for the insurance company to come and then, offer some small amount of money and, hopefully we'll take it. It doesn't work that way. And there are lawyers that do that, because to them, $1 million case would be a huge, significant settlement. But if the case is worth 10 million or 20 million and you're taking $1 million or $2 million, it's really not fair to the client. So your best bet is to put it in litigation, file the lawsuit. Don't wait around for the insurance company to come and, throw a little money or dangle some money in front of you. File that lawsuit and get your case ready to go to trial. Do not wait.
What kind of factors can delay or speed up the process, for that matter?
Yeah, so in delay, for example, if we need documentation from the client, if we don't get that documentation, that can delay us filing the lawsuit. Or, for example, if the client had a pre-existing condition, we would want to know about all the medical records in the past so we can show the differentiation or show the aggravation from the pre-existing condition to the current condition. So getting records sometimes is a delay. Client not working with us. We need the client to work with us when we're working on these cases. The client's going to need to show up to their deposition, to mediation. The defense always hires a doctor to come in and say that our clients aren't hurt. No matter what the injury is, they always find something to say. So you're going to have to go to their doctor, the defense doctor's examination, and let them examine you. And this kind of stuff delays it. And insurance companies know that. So as soon as we get the case, we like to notice it for trial right away as soon as we can. There are rules in place on when you can notice a case for trial. And usually it's about 20 days after the defendant answers the complaint, and then you're off to the races. Now, how fast do you get before you can settle your case or go to trial will really depend on where you are, where is your jurisdiction, venue, and then who's the judge. Because some judges run their calendars quick and some take a little bit longer. Just depends on the judge. So there really is no specific answer as to how long. It's just a lot of question marks. And I hate not giving you a specific finite answer, but I just can't do it.
Everything's different. Are there any general pieces of advice that you would have for victims to avoid unnecessary delays?
So if your lawyer asks you for information, I wouldn't put that off, like procrastinate and doing that information. If you always return your lawyer's phone calls, make sure to go, if you're hurt, go to your doctor's appointments. Because if you create gaps in treatment where you're not going to the doctor like you should, then that'll look to an insurance company that you're not really hurt. And that's a problem. So if you're hurt, obviously, go take care of your health, get better so you can feel better. So the big key takeaways is, I would say, is one, make sure you listen to your lawyer's advice. Number two, go to all the appointments. And number three, don't miss a deposition or an examination by the defense doctors. And your lawyer should prepare you for both of those.
So I know you're going to say it varies, but give me a general idea here. Like if it goes to trial, like how does that affect the timeline? Does that like stretch it out exponentially, or does it happen pretty fast, or what's the general consensus on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if your case is going to trial, generally by the time it gets to trial, from the moment we file the lawsuit, in Florida, about 12 to 18 months. And then the trial is not that long. So the trial could be anywhere from a couple of days to a couple of weeks, depending on how complex the case is. Mm-hmm. If the case is just your average case, I would say within a week, 2 weeks tops, we should be able to wrap it up. After you get your verdict, that doesn't mean that's when you get paid. The defense will usually file a motion for new trial and try to get that granted. If that gets granted, then there might be an appeal or might be a new trial. If it doesn't get granted, meaning if the motion for new trial does not get granted, then there would be an appeal by the defense, or they may pay. It just depends. And you can always come to a settlement there. So after you have your trial, the case is on the back half. It's going to end soon. It's just a question of, does it end in a settlement after you got your verdict, or does it go up on appeal? And an appeal can take a long time as well. Another 18 months added to it. So
18 months for the appeal process. It's a long time.
It is. And then people get frustrated. I understand why they get frustrated. Yeah.
I'm sure everybody wants it behind them and they want it resolved. So how do you manage those client expectations? Because they're going to want it resolved fast. How do you get them to understand this is going to be a little bit?
So yeah, that's a great question. So for expectations, we try to set them at the beginning of the case and also during several stages of the case when we go to mediation or depositions, even at the trial level. There are companies, let's say you get your verdict. There are companies, even though the case is on appeal, that will provide the client some money in advance until the appeal process is over. So a lot of clients like that aspect of it where they can have some money and can start living life. Because remember, the insurance companies are doing everything possible to postpone, delay, deny, not pay the claim. So it's our job to push it as fast as possible. But even fast can get 12 to 18 months to get to trial. And that's considered fast. So in the meantime, there's people who can't go back to work because they're physically not capable of it, or they can't meet their basic family needs and pay for a mortgage or pay for their cars or their kids' food. So they need money. There's companies that'll help them with that too, if they need it. So the expectations, I try to set them at the beginning of the case and make sure that the clients understand. But if things change, there are different avenues to help the clients. So if you need help, you just got to give your attorney or give me a call and we'll be glad to help you.
Can you share a success story of maybe where patients paid off in a trucking accident?
In terms of sharing success stories, there are a bunch of them. But one that comes to mind right now is where an FPL power truck, one of those utility trucks, was stuck on the roadway. It was dark outside. You couldn't see anything. And here comes my client who's 89 years old, blind in one eye, but still legally allowed to drive according to his optometrist, driving down the road. And the FPL truck doesn't have its warning devices out on the roadway the way you see some trucks put the warning devices at 10 feet, 100 feet, and 200 feet. And so my client, who's driving in this pitch dark neighborhood, sees the truck, but he thinks the truck is moving. And then as a result, smashes into the truck. All along on that case, FPL didn't want to offer us $1. Went to mediation, didn't want to offer us any money. Going to trial, they didn't want to offer us any money. Their whole theme was, your client slammed into us, which is true. Our client did slam into them, but had they followed the law and trained their people right, our client wouldn't have smashed into them. He would have smashed into the warning device that should have been placed at 200 feet out, 100 feet, and then 10 feet. But they didn't do that. And then there's a reason why they have those laws in place, state law and federal law, because they know accidents like this happen. So this prevents accidents from happening. So that was a case when we talk about client waiting it out. We didn't really have a choice in that case because they didn't offer us any money and the client had to wait it out. And once they waited it out, we went to trial. It was a little over a week. It was a week and a half trial. And we got a 7-figure result. When I say 7 figures, it means in the millions for the client at trial by a verdict. And, FPL defended that case and it was in Palm Beach. And it was because the client waited and didn't want to take the, peanuts that they were offering. I think they offered us a couple of $1,000, like literally a couple of $1,000 on a serious injury case.
Nice try, guys.
Yeah. So it was a tough case, but the jury listened to the evidence and they did the right thing. So sometimes having patience and waiting it through and not letting the insurance company just get you frustrated and having your lawyer gear up for that trial so they can make a difference for you makes a difference in the case. So I would say be patient, wait, and make sure your lawyer knows what they're doing in the courtroom.
Well, good advice as always. Well, thanks for tuning in to Road to Recovery, Advocacy and Insights for Trucking Accidents with Sagi Shaked. If you would like a consultation to help understand your case timeline, you can connect with Sagi at shakedlaw.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and stay up on all the insights that Sagi has. Thanks again for being here, Sagi. Always great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.